although this will get me in trouble, I've never said this before, but Palestine is Jewish land. I mean, come on, who doesn't know this? Jesus came to Jerusalem. If Sister Linda Sarsour engages in a debate with me and proves me wrong, I will resign as an imam.
G'day guys, this is Omega back with another video. Tonight I'm with a man who I don't believe needs any introduction whatsoever. I'm with AKA IMAM TAWHIDI, the Imam of Peace. And Imam, it's a wonderful pleasure first off for you to allow me to have this interview with you. And I just want to say, as somebody who studies theology, somebody who has been in these Islamic countries, I know just how hard this must be for you. Obviously, speaking out like this elicits a lot of backlash, even within your own faith community, from the broader Islamic community. It is very, very difficult, and on top of that, you're placing your life in jeopardy, and I have the utmost respect for that, and much so more than I do for those who are your detractors, because in the face of everything we're seeing in the world, they say nothing, they do nothing. We've obviously seen Manchester, we saw Kabul, we saw Brighton, we've seen all these attacks, and they seem to be completely and utterly silent, but you're not. And you know, I really did enjoy the challenge that was laid down to Linda Sarsour.
Sarsour.
Thank you for correcting me. That's gone viral. So I don't know if you know this, but Sargon of Akkad has reposted that on the Thinkery, one of his YouTube channels, and I just had a look. It's got about 90,000 views. That is really blowing up the internet.
Wow!
Yeah. So you've definitely got the skeptic community on notice. The skeptic community, massive YouTubers, and just in the last week, you've been interviewed by a Jew. Gad Sad, you've been interviewed by an atheist, and now you've come to be interviewed by a Christian, and we thank you for your open-mindedness. We thank you that you are coming to speak to us, and it is a wonderful honor to have you on the show tonight.
Well, God bless you very much, my brother, and thank you. I am extremely grateful for you in even approaching me, and also all the great work that you do, and God bless you abundantly, shall I say. And we are here to basically serve as much as we can, and each and every one of us has a mission on this earth, and that is exactly what I believe, and that is to establish peace. I thank you for all of your acknowledgements, and I thank everybody else, and it is my absolute pleasure to spend this time with you tonight.
Thank you. And you know, just on that note, you've been talking to Jews, you've been talking to atheists, and now you're talking to a Christian. How would you feel?
I love you all.
Yeah. How would you feel about talking to or working with a gay Jewish Catholic?
I would love them like I would love my own family.
So you know who I'm. Do you know who I'm? When I refer to a gay Jewish Catholic, do you know who I'm referring to?
Not really.
Have you heard of Milo Yiannopoulos?
Milo, I love Milo.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's actually been, believe it or not, he's been putting a lot of your stuff on Reddit.
I have seen.
He's reposted.
I have seen. Yes,
Reposted
I loved Brother Milo even before he started posting about me.
So just a shout out to Milo. I'm doing a shout out to Milo, making it official. You are 100% prepared to, there are groups like Rebel Media, there are groups like Milo Yiannopoulos, you're 100% prepared to work with these guys.
Depends what you mean by work.
Yeah.
Because I am a non-political person and I don't get involved with what might be seen as extremely far right or extremely conservative. However, they have my full support, especially Brother Milo, because Brother Milo has put extreme effort. That's what I don't like using the word extreme, but extreme effort when it comes to fighting for his rights and fighting for what he believes is true. And I respect people that really know the truth and follow it, because I believe the left knows the truth. I believe the left has some sort of mental illness. Some of them, like those that are actually being affected by Muslims, but then turn around and still support the radicals. So I do class that as a mental illness, because you cannot possibly be sane and still fight for the rights of a terrorist who would later on turn around and kill you. And then there are some lefties who know the truth but do not follow it. So when I see someone knowing the truth and following it, I respect them a lot. I respect everyone, but people like Milo, who are always seen as an outcast from within his own community. The title of his book, Dangerous, says it all. The amount of times he's been exited from universities, the amount of times that he's been oppressed. I respect Milo, and many people tell me, are you happy that a Jewish gay person is sharing your content? You should be ashamed of yourself. And I turn around and I say, no, I should not be ashamed of myself. Milo is my brother. We are all human beings. We're all brothers. If we're not brothers in faith, we're brothers in humanity. And that's how I see the world. And yourself, Milo, the rebel media, they were in Sydney when I was in Sydney. However, I was invited to see one of them. And the same day I was actually spat on and ambushed in Lakemba when I made that walk. It was the same day. So I was a bit overwhelmed, and I was a bit, I was getting lots of media calls here and there. So I didn't really have the opportunity and pleasure of meeting with Rebel Media. But I definitely support the truthfulness of Rebel Media and the amount of content that they post and the type of content that they post. So without a doubt, I support Milo and I support Rebel Media and what they are doing. However, I like to stay the all people's imam. I have to reach out to the Muslim and the Christian and the Jew who agrees with Rebel Media and Milo, and those that don't agree. Because that's my job as a man of God, and also being a man of peace, I have to be with everyone. Tommy Robinson comes to mind when we talk about Rebel Media. I've had contact with Tommy Robinson previously, and I believe what he stands for is exactly what is needed for his country. Many people might think that he's an extremist or he's a racist, or I do not think that of him. I think the man is actually passionate, and he wants to see his country great again. And if Saudi Arabia, if Iraq, if these Muslim countries are fighting the radicals within their own countries and are banning Hizb ut-Tahrir, Saudi Arabia has banned Hizb ut-Tahrir, why should London, why should the UK allow Hizb ut-Tahrir? If the Muslims themselves know what's going on, then why should we expect the West to give us this room as Muslims? There's too much special treatment. My respect goes out to everyone that is working towards making this world a better place. And even though, because of my time and my future goals, I will not be able to work with all of them, I love them all and I'd love to meet them all one day, and we could possibly collaborate.
You mentioned that the left have this mental illness, and when you look at the rape epidemics happening in Sweden, when you see what's happening in Germany, and then you see people like Merkel, you know, swinging the doors open wide for immigration, It really is. I believe that there are, agendas going on there. I believe that there are, people using these situations for their own ends. But these SJWs, I saw a video of a bunch of SJWs, doing the call to prayer, the Islamic call to prayer. And they were, SJWs standing up because people were protesting about, these rapes. They were protesting about what's going on in their countries. And they just seemingly are so blind to it. They really do suffer from some sort of weird mental condition.
I personally do not, I don't wish to turn around and ignore what my religion is doing to the world. I don't like that. I cannot go and sleep peacefully in my grave knowing what my religion had done and knowing that I could stop it or at least make it less and not doing anything. I can't stop.
Yeah, I'm very much the same, brother Tawhidi. I had to make this channel. This channel itself, I pretty much created this channel because of a massive amount of frustration that was building within me when I saw this absolute global denial that seems to be right across the world. It's either denial or it's cowardice. When I see these terrorist attacks, and it's a lone wolf attack, or it's a mentally ill, or I had to laugh. I laughed my head off actually with that Gad Sad interview, the Bill Nye thing. I mean, CO2. What was it? CO2 and solar panels.
Yeah, the solar panels. It reminds me of the Greens. Greens, I think it's a senator who stood in Parliament and blamed the solar panels for Queensland's cyclones, if you remember.
No, yeah, I'm not up to date.
Yeah, he stood up for Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and actually brought the thing to Parliament, and he was blaming the solar power. I think it was someone like that for what was happening in Queensland. You remember just recently we had these cyclones in Queensland up north.
Yes, I do.
And he brought it to Parliament, and Mr. Turnbull turned around and said, "You really want to use this time where Australians are dying to try and fight between the Liberals and the Greens?" There is no morals when it comes to human life at the offices of the Greens and the parties of the left. I don't see it. I do not see it. I don't believe there's any morals for human life because there's no value. There is no value at the same time, especially when it comes to the matters that concern national security. They're prepared to fight in Parliament over a chair. What is government at the end of the day? It's a chair that's supposed to serve people. And if you're ignoring the fact that we have people dying because of a cyclone, and you wish to use the Australian people's lives, and use their health situation, and use this crisis in order to further your cause, I mean, that's very sad. And look, I'm someone that used to vote for the left. Tawhidi, I used to be a complete closed-minded individual. Completely. This is going back 3 years ago. Up until 3 years ago, there are videos of me on the internet that show you my development into a reformer. I didn't just wake up one day and say, "Hey, let's reform." It wasn't like that. It was things that I had been through in my life. Many things that I had been through in my life. And I turned around and I said, "You know what? I don't think this is right. I honestly do not think that the way we are going as an institute, as a religious body, is right." Because I started to affect the people around me. I started to preach in a wrong way. Can you believe I used to preach against migrating to the West? Because it was the land of sin? Can you believe that? And I turn around now and I look and I say, what on earth were these clerics teaching us? the higher Islamic authorities. What on earth were they teaching us? Why did they allow us to preach that on television? But I guess everybody has a time in their life where they wake up. And it just seems that the left, along with the imams on that side, haven't woken up, because there are imams that support conservative institutes. They support the conservative movement. They have right views. There are even some ultra right imams. In America, there was one that actually took a photo with Trump, and he copped a lot of hate for it. But it's something that we believe in. This isn't something that I didn't wake up one day and say, you know what, this Islam is a good topic. Let me watch a movie and then make a career out of that movie. It's not like that. I didn't just watch a movie or join a group on Paltalk and then get inspired. I actually lived the problem. I lived the problem. And when you live the problem and you study it, you know what's going on. I'd like to show you something. I have here a small library in my office. This is a book. This is a book written by a convert by the name of Zachariah Ozon. Zachariah Ozon. His name might be in English. I haven't looked him up in English, but his name sounds very Western for me. Published in Lebanon. And this book basically says Al-Bukhari's crime, the crime of Bukhari. The book that the 4 volumes that I just went through in my Sharia talk, episode 1.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
4 volumes. We have Muslims. This is a Muslim imam who wrote a book, and it's not that big of a book. We're talking 170 pages. And he says the crimes of our own imams. And this book has been published in many languages. Why is it that the room for dialogue when it comes to reforming Islam is always closed? No one's ever prepared to speak about the problem, to address the issue. Look, you don't have to call a spade to be known as a good person, but at least condemn the terrorism that's happening. I mean, 9 people showed up to protest the London attacks. 9 people on CNN. And the posters were supplied. The posters were supplied by CNN, and only 9 people.
Yeah, that was the staged, the staged protest. I saw that. But I mean, this is one of the great frustrations.
And can I cut you there for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
Speaking about the protest, I apologize for cutting you there. Speaking about the protest, I don't know if I'll tell you. You might be surprised. 4 of the people in the photo were people I know personally. 4 of the people that were in the staged protest of the CNN, I know them personally. Personally, I know them in London. And they are my friends. And if we wanted to expose CNN, I could. And they were misinformed. They knew nothing. The way CNN staged it, it was just shocking. They brought them and they said, we're shooting a movie. We're shooting a movie, and we need Muslims to show that Islam is peace. So these guys said, yeah, why not? Why not? All of a sudden, there are cameras, and the ladies speaking about the terrorist attack, and they were just standing there. One of my friends is looking. Well, you can see them with the white shirt. He's looking at the journalist. He has no idea what's going on. He has no idea that he's actually protesting against the London terrorist attack. It's not that he wouldn't want to. He would love to protest against the terrorists. It's just that he did not know that he was actually protesting. And I have him on WhatsApp. I speak to him every now and then. Good friend of mine, just dragged it from the street and given a sign and stood there not knowing what was happening. So yes, media are actually covering up. There was no Muslim that wanted to protest, because of shame from within the Muslim community. It's not an honor to protest against someone within your own religion that has killed the so-called kafir infidel. This is the mentality that we are dealing with.
Yeah, you know, and being somebody who's studied, you know, I study theology, and I wanted to actually learn why there's this intense hatred, why Muslims are killing Christians, what, you know, why is this, you know, slaughter going on in the Middle East? And as I looked at the, you know, the Hadith, and you've been showing us the Bukhari, I realised that the media and the left, they are geared towards deflecting any real conversation from taking place at all costs. And as you pointed out, even human suffering is, as long as it doesn't counter their narrative, they're happy to let people suffer. They're happy to let women suffer in Saudi Arabia. They're happy to say that they're feminists while women are being treated like dogs in certain countries. But you know, one of the reasons I've supported you is because we really do need to have this real conversation. We've got to have this very, very honest conversation about where extremism is stemming from, what are the core scriptures. And I know for a fact that you've been very honest. When you spoke with Gad Sad, you were extremely honest. You said, I'm not trying to defend anything. I admit that there are verses in the Quran, but you did say, you know, you do believe people have misinterpreted those, and they have their setting in history. That's fine. But for me, even as a Christian, I can back your claim that the most of the aggression towards Christians, yes, a lot of it is coming from the Quran, but overwhelmingly from the Hadith, from the Bukhari, from these other sources which become the interpretation of the perfect way, you know, or the, you know, some sort of picture of the life of the Prophet Muhammad, or the sayings, or you know, a picture of his life which become the perfect way to live out Islam.
Yes, indeed. The main reason why Muslims hate other people from other religions is very clear. It is very clear. Anyone that has read the Quran would know why Muslims do not accept people from other religions. The Holy Quran itself says, لن ترضى عنك اليهود, the Jews will never be pleased with you, be satisfied with you, and neither will the Christians, until you follow them in their religion, in their culture, and so on. So in other words, unless you convert. When I look at this verse, as an individual, I say, okay, the Jews and Christians will always think that their religion is correct, but so do I. So do I as a Muslim. I also believe that my religion is correct. So it's no big deal. We all think we're correct in our religions. That's how I see it. And that's the end of it. It's a difference of opinion. They're not going to accept me. I'm not going to accept them when it comes to the theological discussion. When we're sitting on a table discussing theology and doctrine, we're going to clash. Christians are going to say Christ is the Son of God. I'm going to say he's a prophet from God. But we both agree that he was a messenger from God, and his word is the word of God. You can call God Allah. You can call God the Father. The point is, we both agree that he's a messenger, and he came from God. There's a big difference between prophet and messenger. A prophet is just someone that preaches what God wants. However, a messenger is someone that comes with a book, has a message. We both believe in the message of Jesus, being a Muslim and you being a Christian. So when I see a verse telling me that the Christian will never be happy, I sit and say, no problem. My religion also says that it is the truth. Religion according to Allah is Islam. Religion according to Brother Omega is, can I call you that?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Is Christianity. Religion according to Brother Gadsad is Judaism. So what? But another Imam would interpret it saying, oh, see, they don't accept me. So I'm going to make them accept me. I'm going to push my religion down their throats. And that's where you see these documentaries being made about Imams in London, and very aggressive, very angry. Why? Because they feel rejected. Just because the verse tells you they're not going to accept you, it doesn't mean that you have to feel rejected as a human being. And at the same time, it does cause depression for many Muslims living in the West, that they have some sort of low level of self-esteem. And that self-esteem does prevent them in even entering some supermarkets sometimes because of the way they look. They will feel very embarrassed to sit on a table because they fear how people look at them. But it does not mean that if you're a man and you have these muscles and you're brave, you go around stabbing people because the verse says they're not going to accept you. So what? I don't accept half the Muslims. It doesn't mean that I go around killing them. But even when I don't accept them and they don't accept me, you can see the difference between myself and them. So when I don't accept them, I go and I visit them. I don't accept their ideology, but I go and I hug them and I sit with them. Because at the end of the day, it's an opinion. God created my mind. He created the brain. I have a mind. And this is how it functions. I cannot be slaughtered because of the way my mind functions. And neither can you be harmed only because you see things in a specific way that I don't see them. The hate is fundamental. It has deep roots going back to 1,400 years, and we cannot deny that. And the main reason why Islam was spread by the sword, by the Caliph Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman, was because they hated the world they're living in. Our caliphs really believed, and I mean companions of Prophet Muhammad, they really believed that there is no room for dialogue with the Christians. There is no room for interacting with the Jews. And because of that, the slightest thing, the slightest economic sanction, the slightest misunderstanding would cause war, civil war between the Muslims and the Christians. And the Muslims always say, we're defending ourselves. Why? Because the Quran says so. They don't accept us, so we have to defend ourselves. That's the mentality. And I always say this when I have meetings with government officials. Never think that a Muslim will accept you. Never think. A Muslim will accept you. They will accept what you have to offer them. The money, the dinner, the eat dinner, the Centrelink, they'll accept. Never think they'll accept you as human beings, no matter what they do, unless they show you they accept you. Unless they go and they hug the Jew. If a Muslim goes out and hugs a Jew, then he's sold out with the Muslim community. That's the biggest sacrifice you can make in front of the Muslim community. No one will pray behind you, because then you're not a good person. So a real Muslim who wants to reform and wants to show you that he's honest needs to do something like, needs to make a sacrifice. How many Jews have you hugged? And so on. It shows you that in order to be a good person, you need to prove it. And this is actually going back. It's not good. By default, you should be a good person. You don't need to prove to the world that you're a good person. But this is the situation that we are in now. Now, in order to trust a Muslim, they need to prove that they are good people. And who do you point the finger to? Who do you blame? You blame the very script, the Bukhari. You blame, because the Bukhari interpreted the verse of the Quran. I interpret it saying, so what? Our religions don't accept each other. Big deal. Move on. Live a happy life. Religion is not everything. Morals is everything. Having integrity is everything. And if Bukhari wants to interpret in a violent way, then we are going to have problems, yes.
Yeah, I think one of the beauties of the West, especially, I can only speak for myself and people that I know, is that we operate on a system of mutual respect. And obviously, you were talking to Gad, and culture was mentioned. Culture is a very large defining aspect of, I believe, what you're doing, because when, you know, you mentioned there are certain parts of Islamic belief where, you know, to attain righteousness, you have to, or to stay clean, you have to adhere to a certain set of values or laws. And, you know, by mixing with the infidel, by doing this and that, you're, you know, you're somehow making yourself dirty, or you know, or the statements that you've made, some of the things.
Najis kafir dog.
Yeah, exactly. And
With all due respect,
I've heard people
but
call
just
you
for the
that.
viewers, yes.
And but you know, speaking of Reformation, you know, being somebody that's been in these countries and seen it, you know, there are massive, massive barriers in the way. I mean, even for you to make the statements that you've made, especially about Israel, you know, that's one major statement, and a few of the other statements. It's you know, you were talking about the mentality. It makes you a traitor. It makes you an enemy of, you know, the majority of, you know, those who follow and practice Islam. But I sort of see you, Tawhidi, and you may think differently, but when I see you and I think about the impact that you're having here in Australia, for example, I believe that you're becoming a polarizing, controversial figure. You're somebody who's able to act as the middle ground between, you know, elements of the Islamic community and the Australian community. And what I see is almost a change in culture, both from the Australian people and the way they view Islam, but I think, you know, being able to open this up and have this honest conversation, my hope is, because I've got to be honest here, my hopes for a change in the theology, you know, because you are a minority within a minority, and in these countries I've been in, even suggesting it, I mean, a guy in Pakistan has been sentenced to death today for a Facebook post. A Shia Muslim has been sentenced to death, and get this, he was sentenced to death because he had an argument with a guy on Facebook who turned out to be a counter-terrorism operative, and the counter-terrorism operative has had him charged with blasphemy, and now he's going to be put to death for a Facebook post. But what I think, you know, I think you can make massive ground in the culture war, maybe reaching some of the younger Muslims who don't want to see Australia, as you say, turn into Baghdad.
New Baghdad.
Yeah, you know, I saw a comment come through on your Facebook stream tonight, Lambecca, the greatest place in Saudi Arabia.
Lakemba.
Oh, Lakemba.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was drinking a beverage at the time, and I nearly spat it all over my computer screen because I laughed that hard. But
yeah,
how do you...
sad.
Yeah, but can you see... can you... you know, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I think that there's a culture war here. I mean, you're a reformer as far as ideology and theology goes, but I think you're going to be far, far more powerful in the culture war. Any thoughts on that?
The cultural war is basically what has been brought from overseas to Australia. We've had the Italian culture come in. We've had the Bosnian culture come in. We've had the Croatian culture come in. We've had the Russian. We've had all of these beautiful cultures come in, and we see them. When you go to the market, you see the different types of food, the different types of music, the different types of dress codes, and it's beautiful. And even the Arab culture. The Arab culture, if we really want to be realistic, half of it is music. Half of it is music and smoking and partying, and this is the mentality of our youth. But that's not threatening. The other culture that says it is okay to marry an underage girl, it is okay to beat your wife. Now, let me get something very clear over here. Brothers and sisters clashing with each other at home is something that happens in all households, or let's say the majority of households. But having an ideology that tells you it is okay to beat the life out of your wife, that is corruption. I do not care if it's religion, if it's culture, if it's tradition, if it's a custom. It is corruption and it needs to be stopped. Now we have this new Australian-born people, individuals within this country that say it's a blessing to be beaten by the husband. That clearly shows you that we have had a corrupt culture infiltrate the Australian society and is now shaping the minds of young, beautiful women that believe it is a blessing to be beaten. Well, I don't know about beautiful when it comes to Hizb ut-Tahrir, but you get the point. To be beat, it's a blessing to be beaten by your husbands. It is a blessing, and she brings the stick and she's honored, you know. And the Australian culture is giving you a complete shield from being abused by anyone. You can't even point to a female. You can't even touch her like that. That's assault. We're giving you all of that. You want to rubbish all of that, throw all of that away, and you want to stick to your Arab culture. And I'm Arab originally. The Arab culture that tells you you can beat your wife, and that makes you more of a man. It doesn't make you more of a coward. It makes you more of a man. And you know, this is the problem when Muslims clash with their own religion. Muslims clash with their own religion. The Quran clearly advocates for wife beating. Whoever says no, you know, we have these imams that say that Islam puts the woman on top of the head and loves it. Rubbish. Okay? Rubbish. The caliphs, early years of Islam, buried their own daughters alive, smacked their women, they beat everyone, and they killed and whipped and chopped heads and they stoned and lashed. Don't lie. The problem is, the Quran clearly speaks about beating women, and it permits it. It permits, beat your woman. Clearly says so. Whoever denies it is a liar. Whoever tries to twist and turn is a liar. Whoever says it's something that we do not practice here in Australia is a liar. It clearly says. It clearly says. So how does Imam Tawhidi, as a reformer, how do I interpret this verse? To me, this verse clearly says, beat the woman. I come and I look at the situation Islam was in. Firstly, it was newly emerging. It was only emerging amongst a ignorant majority. The Quran, as I said in one of my interviews, did not come as a message to graduates from Oxford and Harvard. It came to a bunch of ignorant people, even if they were eloquent in Arabic and they had these talents. They were still ignorance. Compared to now, they're ignorance. And Islam came to these people as a religion and saw that they were burying their daughters alive. Why? Because to them, having a daughter is shameful. Because the daughter gets married and carries out her husband's surname, whereby the son grows to carry out the father's name. That's the mentality. It was shameful. Why? Because during wars, the woman would be taken as hostage. It was shameful for them to have daughters taken hostage by another tribe. Therefore, they wanted to get rid of the shame. Their mentality said, bury the woman. Islam came and wanted to preserve and maintain the life of these young girls. So how do you keep them alive? Because you can't come and change a religion overnight or change a culture overnight. You're going to have to gradually do it. So Islam was focusing on keeping these girls alive, but at the same time satisfying the fathers to be tolerant enough to wait until this girl has grown and then married off. Because if Islam says, come on, don't bury her alive, let her live, the moment that little baby cries so loud at night and prevents them from sleeping, he's going to go and say, you know what, leave the religion of Muhammad, I'm going to bury her alive. So Islam wanted to make sure that all young girls in all of these Arabian homes were protected until they grew to get married, and then they would leave the abusive home of the father that was once upon a time going to bury her. But how does Islam satisfy the parent and satisfy the male brother of this shameful creature and not, and prevent them from burying her? So it said, keep them alive, but if they annoy you, beat them. This was a solution. Keep them alive, but if they annoy you, beat them. Now we live in a society where nobody is burying anyone alive, and nobody is in need of any such solution. So I see this as a document that had solutions for problems that existed during that time. I do not come and apply it today like the Einstein of Islam, Kaiser Trad, who says beat them as a last resort. Beating them was never a resort to begin with. It was a solution for a specific problem in a specific area. And the greater good was that you kept them alive. Look, that's the mentality that we were dealing with. Absolute ignorant, barbaric people that we had to guide slowly as a religion. And as bad as this sounds, I admit it's terrible, but that's the problem. And that was the solution. Sometimes the solution contains half of the problem, because over time, you'll have half a problem rather than a big problem, but you still have a big problem. But you've gotten rid of the killing and assassination of girls. Now you have them being beaten. So now it's much easier for you to bring in a new culture that says, okay, we stopped you from burying them alive, we can stop you from beating them. This can happen. But we still have these Muslims that do not want to take my peaceful interpretation and the other minority interpretations, the interpretations of other minorities, and want to stick to how people used to live like barbarics 1,400 years ago. I don't know. Do you see how I have interpreted it right now to suit our way of life? This book contains verses that are violent, but they show the development of Islam, and they cannot be applied today. It's a story, historical document. It happened. Doesn't mean that because it happened, you have to do it again and again and again. And even then, this permissibility was only allowed for a specific period of time. That's exactly how I see it. And I condemn wife beating. I condemn any violence. Let me know what your opinion is if you need any more clarification regarding that matter.
Yeah, well, I will say a few things. Obviously, I mean, I have seen videos. I've actually made a satire video on my channel. I watched some footage from Saudi Arabia, and there was a guy, and this was on national television. I was absolutely flabbergasted and horrified because, it was talking about how to beat your wife, and the guy was presenting different size sticks, and then get this, they were talking about how to beat a woman with a disability. So if you had a woman with a disability, how to beat her. And I think this is one of the things that Islam really struggles with as far as a culture coming into the West, and that is when it doesn't matter what culture you're from. And I think this is one of the big gripes that people have in the West. We come from all different cultures, we come from all different religions, but you're responsible for your own actions, and you are to adhere to the rule of law of this beautiful nation. And the thing that has made Australia such a beautiful nation is the fact that, as you mentioned, we have Italian migrants, we have all these different people and cultures coming in, but they are willing to adhere to the rule of law of the country. And, it almost seems like, and we've seen people who are refusing to stand for a magistrate in court. We're seeing people who want curtains placed around swimming pools. We've seen people who want halal barbecues placed in certain areas. There's all this special treatment, and even as you were saying that, I thought of the teachings of Jesus, which was 600 years before, and Jesus was saying, love your wife as I love the church, and what he was referring to was lay your life down for your wife and love her sacrificially. And that sort of teaching was around 600 years before. But that aside, we're looking at, I think one of the major issues to what you've mentioned there is the fact that there's this resistance to adhere to the rule of law in our countries, and
Definitely.
this special treatment.
Yeah, I don't think the Muslims in this country take the law seriously. I think the only reason why, well, many of the people I know only abide by the law because they don't want to get a fine. You know, they don't want to go to court.
Yeah.
Not that they believe in it. There's a big difference between believing in Western democracy and the laws within it, and actually having no other option. When you have a Muslim community that has no other option but to follow, they're not really believing in the law. And that allows them to break the law whenever they don't like the law. If the law gets in their way, they'll break the law. And it can begin from running red lights in traffic lights, and all the way to getting unlicensed firearms and shooting police officers. There is no limit to Muslims breaking the law in this country, and we've seen it. We've seen imams, man monas. Like, what on earth were you thinking? And I wasn't here. I wasn't in Australia when this happened. I was still studying back home. And when I came back in 2015, I was very shocked to see the country change, and people had changed. I remember 20 years ago, when I used to go out, everyone was smiling. Like everyone I remember in Perth, Mirrabooka Square, Dianella, Ballajura, all the way up to Mandurah. Everywhere I went 20 years ago, people just wanted an excuse to laugh. You know, they were ready to laugh. Everyone's laughing. Then I come in 2015, after I've done my studies, I come and I see people they're stressed, they're worried. You know, people will say, well, the economy is not doing too well, this and that. No. People are not as happy as they were 20 years ago. People complain the prices are going up. No. We have serious problems in the society. People are afraid to go out. I'm one of the people that is afraid to go out. I can't go out to walk around in public without wearing a doctor's surgery mask. You know, there's one's a surgeon's mask to cover my face. And sometimes the beard just gives it away, you know. And it just shocks me to see how there is constant denial from the left that is allowing the radicals to grow, because that's how the radicals grow. When there's extreme tolerance towards what they are doing, they will grow. I mean, how on earth does Hizb ut-Tahrir get permits to, or actually get approval to hire community centers in Sydney? What's going on with the council? What's going on with the mayor? How on earth does that happen? And even when they do announce the venue, they get many calls from the community like, what on earth are you doing? You're giving these people a venue to advocate for executions, to advocate for Sharia law, for violence, for stoning, for this, for that. And they usually have no response. The response is, well, they paid for it. You know, and it just doesn't help when we as a nation cannot agree that a bullet will kill. If we can't agree on the fact that bullets will kill us, and let's focus on getting these people deported before they do something. We can't even agree on that, even when every now and then there's a homemade missile or homemade bomb that's been discovered, and the police have done a good job stopping it from going off. Until when are we going to grow up? Until when are we going to wake up? When's this going to stop? And when I speak from passion. I speak because I have seen what has happened in the Middle East, and I go there every now and then, and I see my home country torn apart. I see what's happening, and I do not want that to come here to Australia. Yes, I feel sorry for them. I will not deny that. But I don't want that in this country, because look, A bomb can go off every single day in Iraq, when it does actually, every single day. There's somewhere, some city in Iraq, Baghdad, every day there's an explosion. Literally, one day in 2006, we had 100 explosions in Baghdad in one day. And there's always curfews, there's always roads blocked. I don't want that to come, because in Iraq, the people are used to it. It's very normal for a ice cream shop full of children to blow up, like what we just heard of a few days ago, like 2 weeks ago. An entire shop, ice cream shop, where children were there.
Yeah, it was devastating.
Yes, and a 12-year-old girl from Melbourne,
Yeah, 13-year-old
Zainab,
girl, yeah.
was killed. And then 4 days after that, the ice cream shop opens again. 4 days after that. Like, the people haven't even finished crying yet. They haven't stopped crying. They haven't even buried the little kids. The burials are still going on. The ice cream shop is up and running, and he's selling ice cream. What would you like, chocolate or pineapple? It's normal in Iraq to have explosions. It's part of it's like raining, you know, oh, today it's raining. Very normal. In Australia, we can't tolerate that. We don't have the nation that will be patient when bombs start going off, God forbid, because the country will be torn apart. We have warriors that will stand up and defend this country big time, but we don't want civil war. We do not want civil war. The left needs to wake up to the fact that should we have a strong radical community in this country that starts undertaking terrorist attacks every now and then, like we see in London, like we see in Europe, if this, God forbid, happens in Australia, they will not be immune to those attacks. They will be targeted. They will be targeted. And it's just a matter of showing them the reality, but they don't wish to accept. They will never accept it by the way things are going, but yet they turn around and they start to attack. You know, Andrew Bolt was attacked, and previously many people have been attacked in Melbourne and in Sydney for being conservatives. I really do not know what it's going to take Australia to wake up to the fact that radical Islam fears nobody and does not even fear God. They are here to take over. They're not here to be your friend. They're here to take over.
And one of the great fears I have, Brother Tawhidi, and I've spoken about this on my channel, and I've said this is why we need to take measures now. This is why we need the honest conversation now, is because people underestimate, I think, to a great degree, that the West, if you look at England, if you look at us historically as Westerners, we are actually warring tribes ourselves. And what I really don't want to see in the future is this come to such a degree, come to such a point where there is a massive backlash, where there is a massive conflict, because, you know, historically, I like to study history, and historically, Westerners will be pushed to a certain point, but they will fight back. Now, you've mentioned a lot about, you've talked a lot about takiyah. Now, I know well what takiyah is. When I watched the Orlando shootings and I saw his wife come out and say, oh, you know, he's not a Muslim, he's a homosexual, I knew she was lying to protect Islam. And I you know, and I was in a room of people, and I said, oh, she's committing takiyah. And they all looked at me and said, what are you talking about? And I said, she's lying for the sake of the furtherance of Islam. Because this is getting so much bad press for Islam, she's claiming that he's a homosexual, and by being a homosexual, by default, he can't be a Muslim, you see. So what she's doing is essentially trying to, you know, distance him from Islam. Now,
Indeed,
I know exactly what takiyah is, and I just very, very briefly, can you explain to the people at home exactly what takiyah is?
takiyah is a consent by the religion. It's a religious permissibility to conceal your faith when in situations of life and death. And also we have tawriyah, where that is you trick, excuse me, you trick the non-Muslim and not allow them to know what the truth is. For example, if someone comes to you and says, I'm a police officer. Do you know where Ahmed is? Have you seen Ahmed? And you can say, for example, even though you know where Ahmed is, you'll say, I haven't seen him lately. And lately could basically mean the last 5 seconds. I haven't seen him lately. So you've lied to the police, but you've also saved your Muslim brother in faith. And these are forms of deception. Kitman, which basically means you stay silent. And there are other matters in religion. Although Tawriya has its many types, and Taqiyah has its many types, I come from a minority that believe Taqiyah existed once upon a time, and it should be used under the circumstances where
under duress.
If there's a sword on your neck.
Yeah, I get that.
And honestly, right now, when I go to Iran and Iraq, I practice taqiyah from Muslims. There's no need for me to practice taqiyah from the non-Muslims. And I am someone that doesn't believe in taqiyah to begin with. But if the sword is on my neck, I'll say, okay, I'm actually Christian.
And this was a wide practice during World War II. The Jews, were saved. There were Christians saving Jews. They were hiding them in their basements from the Nazis. And when the Nazis came in, these Christians are forbidden to lie under any circumstances. The Bible prohibits it under any circumstance. But they were lying for the sake of all these people they had in their basement. They didn't want them to be slaughtered by the Nazis. So I sort of understand that concept in those extreme situations. But when I look at people like Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, when I look at people like Waleed Ali, our favourite guy on the project, and, seeing him in Kirribilli House in the same room as a radical preacher who says absolutely nothing. When I see Linda, maybe I'll take her out on a date one night. When I see Linda, do you think these people are fully aware, Sadiq Khan, Waleed Ali, do you think they are fully aware of the radical elements that are rife inside the Islamic community? Do you think they're aware of that and committing some kind of takiyah?
Whenever something happens, they're the first people to say, it's not us. It is not us. It is the radicals. So they are aware that their religion has radicals to begin with. Secondly, the way they're dealing with radicals is that they're just leaving them alone. They don't do anything. You will never see Linda or Waleed or Sister Yasmin or any of them actually march outside a mosque that is known for radicalizing youth. You'll never see that. Give me the numbers and I will be there on the first step and I will yell from the rooftops. I'll denounce them. I'll shame them. Because I have the ability to go on a riot against a mosque. Do we have Muslims that are ready to go out against mosques of radicalization and protest against them? Because we have very brave Muslims that go outside protesting against Netanyahu, against the Prime Minister of Israel. We have many brave Muslims that want to protest against America, against some movie that basically quotes the Bukhari, or cartoonist. But how come you don't protest against the very mosque that is out there killing? Oh, ISIS also kills Muslims. Or why don't you go and protest against ISIS in the mosques that are producing these radicals? These imams, we saw it from Western Australia. He drove his boat from Western Australia to Queensland. This is going back a few months ago, 2016 it happened, where he was caught wanting to basically sail all the way to Malaysia, then Turkey, then he wanted to go to Malaysia by boat and then take a plane to Turkey, from Turkey enter Iraq and join ISIS. He was an imam. Why don't we have people protesting against that? Why don't we see Muslims protesting against Neil Prakash coming back to this country? Why don't we see that from happening? It's because they are brothers in faith. They are. I'm not saying they're brothers I'm not saying they are similar in practice. I'm not accusing them of terrorism, but they all adhere to the same faith. ISIS believes in the Bukhari. Our people, Walid Ali, Linda Sarsour, they also believe in the Bukhari. So unless you come out and you denounce the Bukhari, how am I supposed to trust you? I come out and I show you the filth within the Bukhari. So I am clearly denouncing. Therefore, I appreciate it when the Australians give me the benefit of the doubt and allow me to preach. But at the same time, I say, the moment you see me go against Australia, I need you to rise against me. That's what I want. And it's just sad. No, they know very well, but they don't denounce. Unless these Australian National Imams Council, unless the Grand Mufti denounce the Bukhari, we cannot trust them. I won't trust them.
Yes, and I saw Sadiq Khan was very bold coming out with Donald Trump, denouncing Donald Trump's visit, but was saying nothing about letting droves of returning fighters coming back from Syria back into the country.
I was very bold in my statement against him. I said, Brother Sadiq Khan, you're the first Muslim to take takiyah to a whole new diplomatic government level. That's what I said to him.
And what do you think of Donald Trump's ban? What do you think of that? Just in case we can get the real Donald Trump to retweet this on Twitter, what do you think? Do you think it's a necessary measure to get things in order, to get the right secure? I mean, I see it as a very measured response, and in fact, earlier on in the part, Barack Obama actually did a far more extensive ban, which no one talks about. He did a 6-month ban when there was a conflict happening in the Middle East from certain countries, but it seems Donald Trump is just attacked left, right, and centre. Do you think it's reasonable for Donald Trump to want to put in a ban just to get security up to speed in America?
Definitely. Definitely reasonable. I mean, that's the main reason why all these doctors and engineers and logical people within the country voted for him and he won. If we don't have strong borders, then we are not a country worth respecting. You are a respected country, and you're someone who earns his respect as a president when you have people respecting your borders. If people can just walk in, that means they don't regard you or your nation or your parliament or your law, and they have no concern and no regard about what you have to say. And they don't fear you. They don't fear you or your defense or your intelligence. If you don't have strong borders, that is something very similar. Look, it's something very simple and very basic. A government is actually made from two main factors. All governments are made from two main factors. The first factor is the economic wing. So a government flies, let's put it this way, with two wings. One wing is the economic wing, the money it has. And the second wing is the defense. If it cannot defend itself, if it cannot protect itself, and defense doesn't just mean it has a good army. Defense basically means it can protect itself from the very border to the sky and from any enemy. So if we don't have strong borders, then we cannot possibly expect people to respect us. Who on earth respects the Iraqi president? Have you ever heard of him?
No.
Do you ever see media give him any time? Do you see the Prime Minister being welcomed, the Prime Minister of Iraq being welcomed by honorable leaders? He stood behind Obama for like a few minutes and Obama didn't even look at him. No one cares because you don't have a country. Your country has no honor. Your borders are open to everyone, and ISIS comes in, Turkey comes in, this guy comes in, Al-Qaeda comes in. You have no respect as a leader. So why would you expect other people to respect you or respect your nation? The best thing Donald Trump has done for the American people is protect them by banning these radicals from coming into this country. That's how I see it. I know many Muslims will say he's a sellout, he's made by the CIA, he's an undercover Jew, whatever. I know that if a radical comes in, he's going to kill me. And we need to stop radicals from coming in. And I want the same for Australia. We want the same for Australia. I'm not saying ban them completely. But we need to figure out what is going on, and we need to start filtering those people that come to this country. Now, speaking of takiyah, and speaking of people coming into this country with foreign agendas, I'd like to play a clip for you. This is a clip that has been leaked from 1989 that shows you a Muslim woman in a Muslim private gathering speaking about their motives in America. Let me show you exactly, and I'll play it clearly.
Education is one of the most important areas that Muslims have to address. And while our objective, our final objective, is not just to become part of the system that we experience now and that we see, our objective, our final objective, is to create our own Islamic systems, and not only create Islamic systems for Muslims, but to look at all the other people who are sharing this country with us as potential Muslims. And if we look at them as potential Muslims and feel that we have the obligation, which Allah has told us, to try to bring them into the same style of thinking, into the same way of behaving, into the same objectives that we have, then we have to have some way that we can communicate with them and some way we can work with them. And in that long-range process of making America Muslim, all of America Muslim, then we have to have some actual short-range goals. We have to have some way of dealing with them and know how we're going to deal with them and in which ways, and be very calculated about it, or else we will not accomplish our goals.
You see this? This is the lady. This is the lady that was speaking. And I can even send you this clip that you could possibly include it in this podcast.
Yeah, sure.
And
yeah, just link it to me, yeah.
The 8th of the 7th of 1989. You know, and clearly they tell you we want America to follow the Bukhari, which basically means Sharia law. Let's behead, let's this, let's that. That's the hidden message in that. And I find it very threatening because I know what our books have. I know what's in the book. If we start really applying these books, then we might as well just pack up and go back to the very Islamic government we once upon a time fled from, because it's pointless. They're coming here. So I do support stronger borders, because the people that are coming in with some weird agendas. With weird agendas, yes.
And there are a raft of changes, I think, which need to happen in Australia. You've mentioned some of these previously. You've talked about perhaps, mosques not being built in every city. You've talked about monitoring the teaching that is coming in. You've mentioned Islamic schools, and in fact there was a news story this week where a teacher exposed what she was seeing being taught in an Islamic school, and it was shocking. It really was. It was mind-bending indoctrination being given to these children. Do you see what other changes do you feel are necessary for Australia right now at this point of time?
Basically, it's focusing on more realistic policies when it comes to politics and elections. More realistic policies. Don't tell me we need to put more electricity batteries in South Australia. We need to build more submarine. No. We need to actually come and take a look and see how many mosque applications have been filed in this country in the past 10 years. Okay, which one of these mosques has actually serviced the country? Which one of these mosques has condemned terrorism? Which one of these mosques have clashed with the police? We need to actually take a look at these things. Now coming to the schools, Simon Birmingham, I support him in what he's doing, cutting the funding from these Saudi, the schools with Saudi Arabian agendas. He's cutting the funding from these Islamic schools. They're called Islamic schools, but they're not really Islamic schools. They're here to spread Persian and Arabic cultural colonialism. That's what they are doing. These schools, you've seen the curriculum. You've seen the curriculum. The way it was shown by Channel 7, journalist Brian Seymour did a really good job exposing them. We need to wake up to what is happening. The matter doesn't really start with swimming pools having curtains. That's basically them showing you we've got control over your area. We can put our curtains wherever we like. Why? Because they've already created generations of radicals from these schools and these mosques that are now joining in our universities, and they will be within our workforce. And then slowly, it'll be very normal to have radicals amongst our people. If not radicals that want to go out there and kill people, then at least people who don't have a problem with someone else having a radical ideology. It becomes the norm. And I believe it's about time that we actually look back at the last 15 to 20 years when it comes to immigration, when it comes to education policy, when it comes to everything. Look back at the last 15 to 20 years and see what can we learn from the faults that we had. What can we learn from all let's say I don't want to call them cracks within our system, but all of the softness that we have had. Let us look back and consider that some form of experience that we have gained, and look back and create a better tomorrow for this country.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned this Saudi Arabian theology that's sort of, coming into the country. And I've just had so much traffic spewing onto my channel, so many accusations. I think the only things you haven't been accused of being is an agent of Kyrgyzstan or a Russian. I have to ask this: you're not a Russian hacker, are you? You haven't hacked the U.S. elections, have you, Tawhidi?
No, I have not. No, I have.
All right, now, because they were the last two on my list, because everything else has, from being a Mossad agent, from being a Zionist. Obviously, Jesus is not your personal Lord and Savior, so yeah, you're not a Christian. But one of the ones, that people, they're saying, oh, he's a Shia infiltrator, and he just hates everything Sunni. And I said, well, no, in fact, he's actually called out, groups like Hezbollah for some of their actions. He has called out some of the things that are happening in Iran. He's not just this agent of Shia Islam who's here to wage this war.
And by the way, can I stop you there for a moment?
Yep, no, please do.
I apologize. Just recently, Iran has issued a statement against me saying that I am not qualified as an imam. So that proves my point.
So yeah, and you're getting a lot of pressure from even within the Shia group itself. And I mean, this is one of the things. When people say, oh, is Imam Tawhidi legitimate? Is he a real imam? And I just say to people, well, listen, after he has said Israel is Jewish land, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. He's not, there is no Muslim organization or establishment or council anywhere that is going to back his. It doesn't matter if he was the most qualified imam on earth, if he had the most amazing history, the most amazing experience. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if he knew the Prophet Muhammad himself. Once he makes these statements, you have to understand that all of these people will be diametrically opposed to him.
Indeed.
And I've got to say, I think one of the dumbest things I've seen is on Media Watch, the guy saying, oh, he was basically painting you as a bigot for saying, and he's even said we should ban some of the holy scriptures, and the scriptures he was referring to actually call for his death. I mean, come on. I mean, how dumb are you, mate? I mean, that's how much they know. But yeah, it's a massive. People I think they just have to understand the reality of the situation, and that is because you are speaking out, because you have put yourself, and like I said, I've just take my hat off to you because I understand what
God bless
it means.
you.
Yeah,
I'll take my turban off to you, although I'm not wearing it.
I understand what it means to risk your life. But not only that, to be completely ostracized by your own, by many elements of your own community. But people need to understand, don't they? You're not an agent for a certain sect of Islam. They're all beginning to attack you.
Yeah. Someone was saying that this very chair of mine was shipped express by Queen Elizabeth. and it's just nonsense. We got this gifted to us by a friend in Oman, because I was sitting on some regular chair, and he said, no, my imam. So he gifted me this chair, and I don't know why they think I am an agent. They're just ridiculous statements, but it's understandable. It is very understandable. This culture of blame America and Israel for everything we don't like is there within the Arab world. Anything we don't like, America, New York, Los Angeles, it's Israel, straight away, without any investigation. Like the smallest thing can happen, and it's straight away the West, straight away. And look, if the West is so bad, please get off Facebook and get off Twitter and get off Microsoft Word and go create your own stuff. And the Muslims are waking up. So now that we've discussed everything, the question is there hope? They are waking up. There is hope. And we need to embrace them. I have increased in followers, actual followers that would come out with me to the public, by a good few hundred. So if I had tens of followers before, now I've got a few hundred, and I speak to them. I speak to them all. We have newsletters that go out. We have groups on WhatsApp. We have groups online where I actually sit and I speak to them, those who agree with me. And they are Muslims. It's not like it's a mixture. We have Muslims waking up. And I always tell them, if you support me, do not speak of it in public, because you will get alienated by the community. We need to wait until we are strong. Then I'll come and I'll open the center. Then we can have a good Muslim community that stands for conservative values and stands for the Australian culture and respects Western democracy. We are not radicals, and we're not going to let these radicals take over. They've taken over so far when it comes to religion. They cannot take over when it comes to our way of life in our country, Australia. It is going to be a bit of a challenge because I am alone. We do have now imams joining in every now and then, but it just also depends on how far are these imams willing to go to make a change in this country. Will they basically stop after 2 or 3 death threats, or will they continue? I mean, come on, when someone accuses you of being a Zionist because you have, for example, a heavy pen, or because you have an iPhone or something, then they're ridiculous people.
It's a pixel.
People, yeah, they're ridiculous people. If they're going to accuse me for shaking hands with Benjamin Netanyahu only because I have a chair or something, it doesn't make sense. Some of the radicals, when I come on my live, they say, "Oh, how much does your microphone cost?" It costs $50. No big deal. These people, they have they have a line of thinking that says to them, whoever doesn't see the same thing that you see when it comes to religion, whoever doesn't see eye to eye with you, whoever doesn't agree with you, they are not good people. Why are they not good people? Because they have to be agents, they have to be radicals, and this is the only way you can ruin and tarnish the reputation of any imam. 1, you say they're agents. 2, you say they're not credible. 3, you say they're womanizers, like the impersonations that are happening about me online. 4, you say, for example, and they hate the religion and they're criticizing the scholars. 5, they speak against the sacred scriptures. And apparently, I'm all of them. Well, there's 1, if you say he's gay, that's the end of it. You cannot not be an imam if you're gay completely. But thank God, I've been accused of everything but gay. I don't know, that might come down the track. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, this is the mentality we're dealing with.
Yeah, maybe you should rethink an alliance with Milo Yiannopoulos on second thought there. When we were talking about how closely you want to work with him, I would be, I'd be watching myself on that. I mean, I've got very, very unashamedly disagree with gay marriage and all those sorts of things. But as I said, I choose to coexist with people. I choose to respect other people's different beliefs. Even if I disagree with them, and that includes the LGBTI community. God bless them.
Yes, God bless them. With regards to gay marriage, I'm a religious man, and all religions, all divine religions, such as Judaism, Christianity, and also Islam, they do not permit gay marriage at all. But as human beings, ethically speaking, we do not have the right to hate other people because of the way they believe they've been born to this world.
Absolutely.
And the way they think. So just because religion says no, it doesn't mean that me as a human being, because first we have to be good human beings before we become good religious people. If religion says no, I as a human being, I need to respect other people. Regardless, who am I to hate people? Ethically, I cannot hate anyone or even harm anyone because of the way they think. So let them be.
Yeah, we don't want to start throwing them off buildings.
Terrible.
I know. It's crazy stuff, isn't it? Now, I just want to ask you this question. Where do you see yourself going from here? Obviously, you are getting a massive online following. And as I said, as the skeptic community and as these, big YouTubers and very well-known figures start engaging you, there is going to be an explosion in your popularity and your influence. Now, so where do you see yourself going? Who would you like to work with? And do you have a vision for, or is it all just happening fluidly for you?
I'll put it to you this way. I cannot disclose my future aims because there are people, powerful people, working behind the scenes to silence me. And we are talking about serious positions within serious places. And thank God, one of them accidentally forwarded the email to someone we know instead of their boss. And in that email, there are many serious things that even concern my safety. And we uncovered a huge case that was happening behind the scenes about me. There are friends that work in certain places in this country that have given me reports regarding issues happening behind the scenes about me. I will give you a hint. There are large Muslim organizations, well organized, sending letters and requests to figures that could potentially silence me. I've been assaulted before. I've been threatened before by Muslim leaders in this country, and the case is on its way to court. Taking everything into consideration, I cannot disclose what my goals are right now because of the safety of the people that are with me right now, and also to prevent people from getting in the way of me achieving my goals. But I can tell you what are not my goals, and that is, number one, I will not be entering the field of politics at all. I have no intention of forming a political party, as many people may think. Secondly, I have no intention to assume any type of leadership or any government position at all. I've applied for the Australian Reserve Army because I believe that is my duty. That's part of my belief. In no way do I wish to have any sort of authority. I understand that the media might make it seem that way to have some clicks coming towards the article, but I myself, I have no intention to run for any type of leadership or authority or anything like that. What I will always be is a man that has listeners, that has an audience that agree with me, and I will share my opinions with them. That is as far as it will go. As for my relations, and there's one very important factor and very important matter that many people do not speak about, and that is, in the past 10 years, I have formed some serious diplomatic relations with numerous ambassadors, numerous faith leaders, world leaders, and so on. And this is going back before I actually announced that I wanted to reform the religion from within. These relations are still in place. I have not lost one of these relations. So that makes me, and they hear me, that makes me a reformer with diplomatic and political relations. And I have a healthy relationship with several members of the government, whether it be from council all the way up. And that having that said, that will shape the type of results we will get as reformers, especially when they all agree with what I'm doing. So that is something good. It's a big advantage for me. I will not say anything more than that, but I will say one thing, and that is July will be a big year for me. So it will be a big month for me. And 2017 will be a big year for me. And there will be a great change in the way things are going when it comes to Imam Tawhidi as a reformer. What we see now will be all history. And the hate and impersonations and the accusations and whether he's an imam or not, all of this will die completely after July. That is because there are certain things that will take place and you will hear about them online, and you'll be possibly reporting about them, and we might even have an interview after they take place.
After Ramadan.
After July, so Ramadan ends with June, so around about the 26th, 27th, roughly, it might end. Then we have July, and then when I am ready, I'll be more than happy to speak to you about my aims. I want to stay the people's imam. I do not wish to have any political affiliations with anyone. Sit with everyone, love everyone, work with what benefits this country, and travel shaking hands with everyone. We need to unite as Muslim imams around the world. We have good reformers in America. I always say this, there's a big difference between a Muslim wanting to reform and a Muslim scholar wanting to reform. A Muslim wanting to reform usually comes from a family violence, they've had some sort of experience and they want to reform. Whereby a Muslim scholar actually knows the amount of threat and knows where the threat is. It's very easy for me to open the Bukhari and show you through 4 volumes, and you all saw. It's very easy because I studied it. I've been taught it. I know what's happening. And there are more books. The Shia books will come this Sunday and so on. Having all of this in mind, we need all imams to unite. All imams that are reformers need to unite in order to form this council of revisionists, a council of reformers, of rejectionists, that reject the wrong in the faith, because it's pointless. If we all leave the faith, then who's gonna clean up the mess the Bukhari had done? That's my point.
Yeah, I think you're very wise in your approach. I think being a non-political figure is a great idea. I really do, because once, as we were talking about politics, the right, the left, and all these dynamics of politics. Once you enter politics, it limits you. And being a man of faith, I am a man of faith, and I sort of understand it's not the place you really want to be, and it actually can be a limitation. But I don't want to discuss it. The last thing I want to talk about is something that is going to put your safety in jeopardy. A couple of great friends of mine, including the Open Mind, Misadventures of Redemption. He's actually a US Marine. He served over in the Middle East. And he was saying to me, I've got really, really serious concerns. You tell that guy, he's a good guy. You tell him to look after himself and be smart.
Thank you.
He's a great. They're good. They really are good people. Now you mentioned and this is something that really concerned me. You mentioned an Australian tour that could happen. Now I don't know how that would work. you know, I don't. Is that something you actually want to do, or you're just thinking about?
Dear radicals, I will be in every state in Australia, and I will not be afraid of anyone. Okay, any one of you. And if you're real men, then come face us face to face. You know, if you wanna wait for me to turn around and attack me, that's not gonna happen. That's betrayal. So I will have my tour, and I am not intimidated by anyone. I will spread my message, and if I am going to die spreading my message, then so be it. Australia will remember me for that. I'm not going to be silenced by anyone. No one. And I'm not just saying this. I walked right through Lakemba. I am not going to be intimidated by anyone. I am Australia. I'm in Australia, and I'm Australian, and we will live like Australians. We will raise our head high. I'm not going to let anyone intimidate me at all. So wait for the time you'll see my posters in your state.
Thank you very much, Imam. I just want to do a shout out. The Facebook community, the guys who are creating IMAM TAWHIDI support pages asked me just to say hi.
God bless them.
There were a few other names they threw up, said, "Oh, can you throw our names out there?" But I just said, "Look, it's probably better off we don't use names."
I love them all. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for your help and assistance, and I cannot wait to meet you all. God bless you all.
Yeah, and again, thank you. Just thank you so much for your time. Thank you for
anytime.
Thank you for the interview, Imam Tawhidi.
Anytime.
I am interested. I've got a friend in Perth who is interested in the Bibra Lake super mosque. We're a little bit worried about the fact that it's a super mosque, but if it's a peaceful group, we're interested in perhaps talking to them at some point. But just thank you so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
Yeah, and I do love the microphone, even if it was supplied by MI5.
God bless you, and thank you very much for giving me your time and for having me on your channel. My prayers and my best wishes go out to your subscribers and your viewers, and may God bless you all. And hopefully one day we could meet, and hopefully next time I could have a smaller microphone. This is just huge, don't you think?
I think it is. And just to the Christian community, there are a lot of people in the Christian community who are praying for you, and also appreciate the fact that you're getting the message out and addressing the real issues. We do appreciate everything that you're doing. And
anytime.
Thank you so much, Imam Tawhidi.
God bless you, my brother. God bless you.
Thank you.
Good night.